Hi, it's Mr. Brown from the Saco Museum. In this video, we're going to talk about the Wabanaki people of Maine. As you know, Native Americans have been living here for thousands of years, long before Europeans arrived in America. We'll see how early Native Americans lived in our next video, but right now, I want to show you the very first map ever created of your neighborhood, of Saco and Biddeford. So let's take a look. This is an old woodblock print of a map drawn in 1605 by a French explorer named Captain Samuel de Champlain. The captain and his crew had a fort in northern Maine on St. Croix Island. They just spent a harsh winter on the island and they were looking for somewhere warmer to settle. Before I go further, students always ask me about this sea duck monster on the map. Sea monsters appear a lot on old maps like these. Back in 1605, the ocean was still a mysterious place. Sea monsters gave maps a sense of danger and adventure. So let's point out some familiar places on the map. On the very left is Biddeford, then across the Saco River is Saco. Follow the shoreline to the right and you're at Old Orchard Beach, and further down is Scarborough. On the Scarborough side you can see Pine Point and the Scarborough Marsh. In the middle of the shoreline would be Old Orchard Beach and the pier. Then on the left side of the map, you have the mouth of the Saco River, where a lot of us like to take a walk on the jetty. Out here would be the Wood Island Lighthouse. In 1605, however, the lighthouse, jetty, and pier were not built yet. These numbers on the map are soundings, or depth measurements. Sailors used to check the depth of the sea by sinking lead lines into the water and marking how far they go. This allowed large ships to avoid shallow water. As you can see, Champlain's ship tried to go up the Saco River, but he was blocked by overgrown trees hanging over the water. Champlain saw that the Native Americans along the Saco River farmed various foods, including corn, squash, and beans. This was different from the Native Americans he met in northern Maine, who preferred to hunt and fish rather than plant and farm. He also noticed that the people along the river lived in long wigwam houses, and many of their villages had palisades, or fences made out of wooden stakes. Champlain asked the people, "What is the name of this river?" He thought they said Shawakoit, so he wrote Shawakoit R, or Shawakoit River, at the top of his map. Although Champlain and his men were impressed with this abundant land by the river, they did not stay and kept sailing down south. Over time, when the English settled along the river, they heard the name more clearly as Shawakotok, which means flowing out to the tides. The name got shortened over time from Sawakotok to Sawako to Salko to Saco, the name we call the mighty river today. So who did Captain Champlain meet on the shores of Saco Bay? Today we know them as the Wabanaki people. Wabanaki means people of the dawn land, because Maine is the first state to see the first light of dawn every morning. Other tribes that lived inland and westward knew that the Wabanaki were the first to see the sunrise every morning. Thus the Maine area was called Dawnland. The Wabanaki are made up of several different tribes in Maine, but they all share a similar language. Here is a map showing the different Wabanaki tribes in Maine. I marked Saco with the yellow star so we know where we are. The Micmac are the northernmost tribe, and their lands occupy both Maine and Canada. Under the Micmac are the Malecite. Since the Micmac and Malecite lands extend beyond the US and Canada border, they are free to cross the border without any restrictions, to live and work in either country. The Passamaquoddy are below the Malecite. Out of the Wabanaki tribes, the Passamaquoddy and Malecite share the most similar language. The Penobscot tribe, as you may have guessed, have long lived within the Penobscot region along the Penobscot River. The people Captain Champlain met were likely the Abenaki. Oddly, the Abenaki are not officially part of the Wabanaki group. Today, the Abenaki mostly live in Vermont and left the Maine region a long time ago. It wasn't until 2012 when the Abenaki tribe was officially recognized by the state of Vermont. This is what the lands and the people looked like before the Europeans arrived. But once the settlers arrived, the Wabanaki population and their lands started to decrease. The Europeans brought new diseases like measles and smallpox that killed many Native Americans. Warfare also broke out between the Wabanaki and the colonists. By the 1700s through the 1800s, the Wabanaki lost many lives and almost all their lands. Today, many Wabanaki people live on federally recognized tribal lands called reservations. Almost all the reservations are in the northern half of Maine today. Unfortunately, over the centuries, Wabanaki communities were mostly pushed out of southern Maine. In the 1970 U.S. Census, about 2,000 people in Maine identified as Native American. By 1990, almost 5,000 people identified as Native American in Maine. Today, more than 8,500 people call themselves Native American, and that number keeps growing in Maine. The number keeps growing because more and more people are rediscovering and taking pride in their Native American heritage. In past decades, people may have been hesitant to talk about their heritage because of discrimination, but today there's a movement to retake and celebrate Native American culture. Thank you for watching this video on the Wabanaki people. In our next video, we're going to talk about how early Native Americans lived in Maine. Check it out.